Air adventure, millionaire disguises as taxi driver, daughter's shocking revelation at 3 a.m. In a darkened corner of the bustling city, where shadows cling like secrets and the streets buzz with midnight whispers, a startling transformation took place. A millionaire, renowned for his lavish lifestyle, chose to discard his tailored suits for a simple taxi driver's uniform. Why? What revelation lay beneath the inked shadows of the night? As the moonlight glinted off the driver's windshield, his heart raced with a dangerous thrill. What sinister game was he playing? Car engines roared and horns blared as the city pulsed with life. But in that taxi, all was eerie silence. The driver, with his unkempt hair and the stench of cheap cologne, was more than he appeared. He glanced into the rearview mirror and caught a fleeting glimpse of the world he once belonged to, a world cloaked in riches and excess, now distant. Every fare was an odyssey, every passenger a puzzle piece in his grand ruse. But tonight was different. Terrifyingly so. The clock struck 3 as the first passenger entered, her eyes wide with an unspoken fear. She was young, maybe 17, an unexpected sight in the dead of night. "Where to?" he asked, the question hanging heavily in the air. She shivered, and he watched as her fingers trembled, clenching tightly around her small backpack, a package of mysteries she carried into his cab. And then, just as she was about to speak, the taxi lurched to a stop. A sudden flash of headlights from behind blinded him momentarily, followed by a chilling scream laced with panic that split the night air. What happened next sent shockwaves through the once mundane evening. She leaned forward, her breath catching like a fish out of water. "You think you know who I am, but you have no idea. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." His heart hammered. The fear in her voice ignited something primal in him. The revelation hung in the air thick as fog. He recalled whispers of strange happenings, rumors of a daughter who had vanished into the city's depths. Was this her? Was she tied to the wealth and the secrets he desperately tried to escape? Those ice-blue eyes bore into him, filled with a knowing that unsettled him. Just when it seemed clarity might break through the chaos, sirens wailed in the distance. Panic laced the air. Time slowed. The world outside reduced to a blur. Would this vehicle become a capture, an accident, or fortune in disguise? Just what was she about to reveal that could change everything? As he rounded the next corner, his mind raced with questions. Could his night a mere disguise turn into a reckoning? He prepared to turn and face her, yet the city loomed behind them, a silent witness to a moment thick with tension and the promise of chaos. With a lump in his throat, he couldn't shake the feeling. This night, one way or another, would unleash secrets that would set everything ablaze. The moment hung like a delicate thread, ready to snap. He turned to her, searching for the right words, but all that emerged was a shaky breath. "Who are you?" The girl's hands trembled in her lap, her backpack pulling her down. "Not who," she whispered. "What?" Her gaze darted to the window, the world outside suffused with the glow of streetlights, shadows flickering like alarming thoughts. "You think you can hide? What do you mean?" He pressed, urgency creeping into his voice. The sirens were louder now, closing in. They felt like dark tendrils wrapping around him, squeezing tighter with each passing second. "Are you in danger?" "No. No, it's not me. It's you." She leaned forward, the raw emotion spilling from her eyes. "You don't know what they are capable of." Her words had power, creating a swell of dread that filled the cramped space of the taxi. Something shifted in her expression, a realization dawning. She pulled the backpack close, her knuckles whitening around the straps. "It's not just about the money. They'll stop at nothing." The words sank in. The shadows beyond the glass shifted, a fleeting figure passing under a street lamp. Who? Who is they? He pleaded, his voice edged with haste, trepidation gnawing at his insides. They're after me, but you might be the key, she murmured, almost to herself. You have to trust me. Before he could respond, the taxi jolted as another vehicle swerved sharply behind them, screeching to a halt on the side of the road. Tension shot through him, sending adrenaline coursing through his veins. What is happening? He demanded. They're here.
We need to go now.
In a split second, her fear morphed into a fierce determination. The girl yanked the door handle, but the lock wouldn't budge. They know. With a satisfying click, he threw the gear into drive and peeled away, tires screaming against the asphalt. The city blurred into a cage of lights as he gripped the wheel harder, his heartbeat matching the wild rhythm of the chase. Where? He shouted over the noise. Where do I take you? Anywhere, but here. They one T-stop just drive. As they raced through the winding streets, every passing vehicle felt like a potential enemy. Heart in his throat, he searched for a place to hide, a refuge in the chaos. Her eyes bore into the darkness outside, scanning for threats. Just then she blurted out, "The docks. Take me to the docks." The word felt dangerous, a portal to an unknown destiny. The docks were a forgotten edge of the city, a place where shadows breathed and whispers echoed. He nodded, the engine roaring as he shifted gears. Quicker, she urged, panic lacing her voice. It was too late for doubts. Desperation clawed at him as they tore through traffic. The sirens began to fade slightly, but the danger loomed with every passing second. Suddenly, she took a deep breath, seeming to gather courage from within. I can't keep running like this. If I reveal who I am, I'll expose everything. What do you mean? He pressed, eyes darting back and forth between the road and her fearful yet resolute gaze. I have to show you it's the only way to make sense of all this, she replied, raising her voice to quell the overwhelming urgency around them. But there's a price, a dangerous one. The words hung in the air, an invitation laden with risk and the glimpse of truth, as the city sped past in a Joker-esque laugh. So what will it be? A flash of lights reflected off the windshield, merging with a growing panic gnawing at him, and he had to wonder, was he ready to step into the abyss she was leading him towards? As the taxi sped toward the docks, a volatile storm brewed in his chest. Would he unlock a door better left closed, or discover the key to a tangled web of secrets that would change everything? With the darkness closing in behind them, he realized this was only the beginning of their twisted tale. The docks loomed ahead, a labyrinth of rusting cranes and forgotten vessels, shrouded in a cloak of shadow. His heart raced, a pounding rhythm drowning out everything else. He cut the headlights, plunging them into near-total darkness as he swung the taxi into a narrow, secluded alley just off the main pier. Stop, she shouted, grabbing his arm. Don't turn off the engine. They'll find us. Her wide eyes darted over his shoulder, scanning the darkness. Her fear rippled through the air, electrifying the tense silence. What do we do now? He asked, his voice quaking with uncertainty. Every instinct screamed that they were in over their heads. I need you to trust me, she said, her voice intense, yet barely above a whisper. If they catch us, a shudder ran through her, and for a moment, she seemed lost in a memory too dark to share.
Who are they?
He wrestled with the questions clawing at his mind. His pulse quickened as shadows danced across her face. What do you mean they'll stop at nothing? There she paused, inhaling sharply as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed off the metal walls. They're part of a much bigger thing than you understand, criminals with connections everywhere. They'll kill to keep their secrets. The words hung heavy between them. He could see the terror brewing in her eyes, mixed with a resolute flame. We have to go.
Now.
She reached for the door, hesitating.
Wait.
You need to know I'm not who you think I am. Before he could process her words, she flung open the door and bolted into the night.
Hey.
Panic surged through him as he scrambled after her, the engine still humming ominously behind them. The salty air and the distant sounds of waves crashing filled his lungs as he followed her into the maze of crates and shipping containers. Each corner they turned seemed to lead deeper into some unseen danger, shadows closing in like hungry wolves. "Where are you going?" he called, but she didn't look back. "Trust me," she shouted without breaking her pace, her voice urgent. She slipped behind one of the huge containers, and he followed swiftly, heart slamming against his ribs. The dim light offered little comfort, and fear whispered that he was losing grip on the unraveling situation. Inside the darkened shelter of the container, she finally stopped, chest heaving, her breaths punctuated by the distant clanging of metal. "I can't avoid it any longer," she panted, glancing nervously toward the entrance. "You need to see what you mean?" His anxiety pricked him as he scanned their surroundings. "See what?" She hesitated, her face ghostly in the half-light. "They think I have something dangerous. It's why they're after me," she murmured, pulling a small, battered notebook from her backpack. It looked ancient, its pages yellowed and frayed. He felt a knot form in his stomach.
Wait.
"What else in there?" "Everything," she said, brushing a speck of dust off the cover. "But if they get it, it's over. For both of us." Just as her words sank in, muffled voices approached. They were too close. Panic lent speed to his limbs. He grabbed her wrist, eyes wide. "We have to get out of here." "No, just listen." She pressed the notebook into his hands, eyes fierce but frightened. "You have to make a choice. Protect yourself or protect the truth. Because once that door swings open, there's no turning back." And with that, a sudden flash of light flooded their dark haven. "Hands where I can see them," a voice barked from the entrance, shattering their fragile moment of safety. The notebook felt heavy in his grip, a weight of unknown possibilities. As figures shifted in the doorway, silhouetted against the blinding light, a chilling, inevitable dread washed over him. The price of truth hung in the air, and his instinct screamed to flee. But in that moment, he had to ask himself, would he choose safety, or dare to dive headfirst into the storm brewing before them? The choice was upon him, but the consequences, they loomed like shadows ready to swallow him whole. The heartbeat in his ears drowned out the world as he faced the doorway, the flashlight beams piercing the darkness like daggers. The figures moved closer. He could make out 3 men, their outlines hard and dangerous, shadows sinking into the spotlit ground. "Drop the notebook," one commanded, his voice rough and demanding, echoing with authority. He trembled, the frayed edges of the notebook cutting into his palm. Her eyes shot to his, pleading, and he felt the weight of her desperation. What choice could he make? Could he trust her with this? The flashlight swept past, illuminating a rusted handle and glinting off a metal container nearby. In that fleeting flash, he saw a glimmer of opportunity. "We need to go," he urged her again, but she shook her head vigorously. "No, we can't let them have it," she hissed, panic breaking through her determined facade. "Are you crazy?" he whispered harshly. "They'll kill us. Better to die with the truth than live without it." She spat back, the fire in her eyes igniting a flame of resolve in him. But just then, a sudden sound of thud against the side of the container made him jump. "Where are they?" "They can't have gotten far," barked the other man, frustration edging into his tone. Think. He felt the walls of the container closing in as the voices grew louder. What if they searched directly behind them? But he couldn't abandon her. At the same time, the notion of their imminent capture clawed at his gut. He glanced around, desperate. There had to be a way out. With a swift, decisive motion, he slipped the notebook into his jacket. "If they take us, they'll take everything. We need to hide, and fast." There was a narrow space between the crates behind them. He bolted toward it and motioned her to follow.
"Get in."
They scrambled into the gap, kneeling low, just as the men rounded the container. He could see them through the slats, pacing with purpose, each step closer like a drumbeat to their demise. "She's in here somewhere, she can't have just vanished," one of them said, annoyance lacing his tone. What about the notebook? The other questioned. If she has it, it could ruin everything. Those words spun around his mind with a sickening clarity. It was more than just a notebook, it was a key to some dangerous game. What kind of power did it hold that made them so desperate?
Sure.
She hissed, her breath hot against his ear, reminding him of their peril. They both stilled, holding breath and fear, as the men drew closer. Find her. We're running out of time. The urgency in his voice shot adrenaline through him. Suddenly, there was a crash. A container toppled over nearby, the men jumping back in alarm. Seizing their chance, he motioned for her to move. This way, he whispered urgently. They crawled through the shadows, dodging the men's frantic shouts. Every sound ricocheted off the steel walls, amplifying their urgency. But then, just as they slipped into an outer alleyway, something tugged at his mind. The notebook. He looked at her. What is really in there? Why are they so intent on getting it? Things you wouldn't believe, she said, her eyes reflecting the flashing lights still illuminating the scene behind them. Disbelief sank into his gut. Tell me the truth. But before she could respond, through the din behind them, a new voice emerged, sharper and ice-cold. You think you can run? We always catch our prey. He froze. It was his choice again, run away or turn and face the darkness. With uncertainty mingling with anxiety, he glanced at her, then back at the shadows advancing toward them. What if it isn't just about you? He asked, breathless. What if this is bigger? She looked at him, the weight of her decision heavy in her gaze. Then, in a flurry, they darted into the maze of the docks, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind. But clarity sparked like lightning. He had no idea what awaited them ahead, only that the truth was about to unveil secrets that could change everything they knew, but would it lead them to safety or deeper into danger? The dark laughter of the men reverberated down the corridor, and he had to wonder, could they really escape this nightmare alive? They stumbled into a dimly lit alley, the scent of salt water and rust clinging to the air. The rumble of the ocean mixed with the distant shouts of their pursuers, a haunting backdrop to the adrenaline coursing through their veins. He kept glancing over his shoulder, convinced the shadows would swallow them whole at any moment. Where do we go? He whispered, urgency threading through his voice. The docks connect to the old warehouse, she replied, her breath quick. It might have an escape route. Or a trap, he muttered, doubt creeping into his mind. But the whoops of the men echoed behind them, sharper than before, pushing them forward. Trust me, she insisted, her eyes wide and pleading. It's our best shot. They dashed toward the warehouse, the doorway looming like a gaping mouth, ready to swallow them whole. The air felt electric, alive with potential danger. Each step echoed in his mind, a countdown they could not afford to miss. As they arrived, the door creaked ominously, but there was no time to hesitate. He pushed it open, a rusty squeal ripping through the quiet. They entered, the darkness wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Inside, the space was cavernous and forgotten, dust motes swirling in the beams of light breaking through cracks in the walls. Boxes were stacked high, the shadows deep, promising hiding places if only they could find one. Over there, she pointed, her voice shaky as they spotted a small alcove at the far end padded with discarded tarps. With urgency fueling their movements, they sprinted toward the cover, skidding to a halt just as the footfalls of their pursuers drew nearer. Heart racing, he glanced at her, searching for reassurance. Can you hear them? She whispered, eyes wide with fear. He nodded, his throat tight. The men's voices mixed with the sound of crates shifting, fraying nerves threatening to snap. Did you hear that? They went inside. One voice shouted. Split up. We have to find them before they escape. Panic surged through him, a tidal wave threatening to drown all reason. The air felt too thick to breathe as they huddled silently in the shadows, trembling. Why did you insist on keeping the notebook? He hissed, grit seeping into his words. What's so important about it? She met his gaze, intensity swirling in her deep green eyes. It holds the evidence. Everything everyone they've silenced, the secrets they've buried. They'll do anything to get it back. He swallowed hard, trying to digest her words. And you thought they wouldn't kill us for it?
It was never about me.
It's about exposing them. Her voice dropped to a whisper, as if saying their fate would seal it. He felt the gravity of her resolve, but couldn't he escape the knot of fear tightening in his stomach. A crash startled them, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. The men were growing restless, anger and desperation spilling from their voices. This was a game of cat and mouse, but neither he nor she had a say in the rules. It was life or death. Get ready to move, she urged, pushing back the fabric of the tarp. He nodded, heart pounding like a frantic drum. Just then, a loud bang reverberated through the warehouse, splintering the darkness like lightning. The sound sent him shooting to his feet, adrenaline igniting his instincts.
Now,
he cried, darting for the door, pulling her along with him. But as they burst outside, the unexpected sight made him halt in disbelief. A sleek black car sat idling at the curb, its engine humming like a predator ready to pounce.
Who was that?
She gasped, her voice wavering. Friends or foes? He muttered, scanning the shadows. The laughter of the men echoed in the distance, but this car offered a choice. This felt like another gamble. Before he could process the moment, the door swung open, revealing a silhouette he recognized from the chaos they had just escaped. His heart raced with both recognition and fear.
Get in.
We don't have much time. The figure urged urgently, gesturing them forward, a confident smirk spreading across his face. Are we supposed to trust him? She whispered, doubt extinguishing hope. They were caught between safety and uncertainty again, the hazy figure now more a mystery than before. Unanswered questions hung thick in the air, and the haunting sounds of pursuit grew closer with every moment. As he took a step toward the car, a stone-cold realization gripped him. What they might uncover next could be even more dangerous than the men chasing them.
Who are you?
He asked, voice trembling, as shadows danced around them for one final decision. But the figure merely smirked. Let us just say I know things you'll want to hear. And I'll make this worth your while. Get in, before it's too late. Would they make a deal with the devil, or would stepping into the unknown be their only salvation? He hesitated, his heart pounding as if each beat warned him against stepping into the car. The figure inside had that mix of smug confidence and concealed intentions that made him wary. What's the catch? He demanded, his voice sharper than he intended. The smirk faded slightly, replaced by something more serious. No catch. Just survival. They won't stop until they find you. I can help you get out of here before they turn this town upside down looking for you. Do we even have a choice? She said softly, her eyes darting to the shadows creeping closer. The laughter of their pursuers echoed ominously, reminding them how close danger lurked. Enough with the games, he spat, jaw clenched. If you know something, tell us now. I know everything, the figure replied smoothly, leaning back as if to dismiss their fear. But I can't say it all now. The less you know, the better your chances. Time was slipping like sand through their fingers. They could almost hear the footsteps of the men mixing with the pounding of their own hearts, the urgency undeniable. He glanced at her, her expression flickering between hope and fear. Okay, he said reluctantly, stepping forward. He didn't know if it was instinct or desperation, but he felt a pull, an instinct that maybe this was their only lifeline. Let us do it. Without waiting for a second thought, they climbed into the car, the door slamming shut behind them like a coffin sealing shut. The figure pressed the accelerator, and they shot down the street, speed carrying them away from the chaos of the warehouse and the screams of their pursuers. Outside, the wind whipped against the car like a frenzy. He turned to the driver, who was now focused on the road. So, where are we heading, and who exactly are you? Names aren't important, but let us say I'm an associate of your friend. He nodded toward her, and I have resources that can help us track down the notebook she risked everything for. This time, her voice cracked. You know about the notebook? You know what's at stake. I know more than you can imagine, and I know that keeping it is a dangerous game, he responded, his hands calmly gripping the wheel. They'll kill for it willingly. We're in deeper waters than you realize, and those men are just the start. The grim reality of the situation washed over them. Was this man truly their ally, or just another player in a game far beyond their understanding? As the streetlights zipped past, bathing them in fleeting light, he felt his stomach tighten. "What do you want from us?" "Just your cooperation. We need to get somewhere safe, where we can discuss our options without anyone breathing down our necks." He exchanged a glance with her, uncertainty flickering like candlelight between them. Did they just trade one prison for another? The driver veered sharply, taking an unmarked alley that gave him a shiver down his spine. "Is this safe?" she asked, voice quaking. "Stop worrying. We know the roads," the driver replied dismissively.
Trust me.
But trust had run thin, and doubts resided in the shadows of their minds. He shifted in his seat, anxiety gnawing at him. Just then, a flash of headlights flooded the rearview mirror, slicing through the darkness, followed by the unmistakable sound of tires screeching. "They found us." He stirred, panic pulsing through him again.
Hold on.
The driver slammed the accelerator as an unmarked SUV swung into the alley behind them, eyes glaring like a predator closing in for the kill. "Faster," she shouted, gripping the edge of the seat, fear painting her face. He twisted around, heart in his throat, as the SUV surged forward, smashing through the shadows with authority, menacing and powerful. "Hold on tight," the driver yelled, whipping the steering wheel to the right, sharply moving into a narrow street. The tires screeched against pavement, sending them hurtling at breakneck speed. The adrenaline surged, but so did an inkling of despair. With every twist and turn, he felt an impending doom creeping closer, questioning if anyone could truly escape the inevitable, their heartbeats synchronized. With the rhythm of the chase, and a desperate question clawed at the back of his mind, could they really trust this stranger, or was this just the beginning of their nightmare? As the SUV gained ground on them, he felt the weight of truth settle heavily on his shoulders. Was there a chance they would uncover the secrets hidden in that notebook, or would it cost them more than they could afford? The answer felt closer than ever, and yet it remained just out of reach like everything else in this twisted game. He took a deep breath, resigned to the chaos swirling around them. A sudden jolt through the car sent them crashing against the seats, and in the ensuing chaos, the driver yelled, "We're almost there. Just a little longer." But would it be enough? Would they emerge on the other side, or would the shadows finally catch up and pull them into their dark embrace? The car zipped down the alley, heart racing, tires squealing as the driver swerved, narrowly avoiding a trash can that seemed to leap in front of them. Each turn felt like a final chance for safety. Was this truly the escape they needed, or had they just brushed against a far deeper danger? "Where are you taking us?" he shouted, fear lacing his voice, unable to shake the feeling of dread that's been shadowing him since they entered this fragile agreement. The driver glanced at him, determination flickering in his eyes. "There's a safe house. We'll wait for them to pass. Just hang on tight." It felt like their hearts were taking flight, thumping wildly in sync with the rapid beats of the engine. Outside, the city turned into a blur of lights and shadows, but all he could focus on was the predatory SUV hot on their tail, its headlights like glowing eyes, relentless and unyielding. Another twist, another turn, and a bolt of adrenaline shot through them as they emerged onto a highway, the speed stretching the taut line of panic further. She screamed as the driver's foot pressed down harder, the engine groaning in protest at the pressure. "Your friend will explain everything once we get there," the driver said bluntly, but neither of them felt reassured. Doubt churned in his gut. What if the explanation dimmed any flicker of hope they had left? From the back seat, she glanced back, her expression a mix of terror and urgency. "Do you think they saw us?" "They have to be close," he replied, fear tightening his throat. "But we can't give up now." As if mocking their resolve, the SUV honked loudly and veered into their lane, forcing the driver to jerk the wheel to avoid a collision. "Hold on," he yelled again, and the world outside melted into chaos as they skidded onto a less-traveled road. It was quieter here, at least for a breath. They rounded another corner, and he caught a glimpse of the graffiti-covered walls, an eerily abandoned area hiding under the shadows. The tension thickened, and he felt the weight of the night grow heavier. We really need to talk about what's going on. The driver shot a quick glance at them again. You'll understand soon enough if we survive this. The urgency in his voice conveyed a sense of impending doom. Just then, the SUV caught up again. The driver slammed on the brakes, and they jolted forward, the world outside seeming to lurch as momentum shifted. Everything condensed into that moment: fear, anxiety, and the breathlessness of a thrill ride gone dangerously wrong. The SUV's headlights pierced through the darkness like piercing knives, and he could see the shadows of men moving inside. Panic welled, and he grabbed her hand reflexively, feeling her warmth mix with the icy grip of fear. They're going to catch us.
No, we can't let them.
She gasped, her eyes wide, a glint of fierce determination igniting her spirit.
Look.
The driver pointed ahead, eyes darting to a rundown building barely visible just off the road in a patch of darkness. That's it. Get ready. As they veered sharply, heading toward the structure, the SUV tried to follow suit, tires screeching in a wild attempt to keep pace. But their driver had a plan, and that spark of survival ignited in his veins. 2. The headlights of the SUV closed in like a tightening noose, and he could hear the thump of their pursuers' hearts beating as loudly as his own.
Now.
The driver yelled, pulling into a narrow opening just before reaching the building. The SUV followed too closely and couldn't make the turn. They felt a rush of risky reprieve until a loud crash echoed through the night. It's not over, he shouted, eyes darting to the rearview mirror, where the SUV was now forced to backtrack, but soon they would be out of sight. Their only salvation hinged on what awaited them inside that shadowy refuge. They burst into the building, their breaths echoing in the empty hallways, each corner dark and ominous. The whispers of their uncertainty filled the air as his heart thundered with questions. Where were they? What secrets did the figure hold? As they turned to confront the driver, ready for the revelations that might set them free, the silence was shattered by a single, echoing voice from the darkness. Welcome back. I've been expecting you. A chill ran down his spine. Who was waiting in the shadows? What game had they just stepped into? The figure stepped into the dim light spilling from the doorway, the corners of their face hidden beneath a hood. The air thickened with dread, and he could feel her tension beside him, a coil of fear tightening further.
Who are you?
He managed to choke out, his voice trembling till a low, almost mocking chuckle echoed from the shadows. You'll remember me soon enough. The figure slowly pulled back the hood, revealing a familiar face that sent a jolt through his body. It was someone he had never thought he'd encounter again, someone whose life was intricately woven into his. Emma, he gasped, stunned. She stood there, older and more hardened than he remembered, but unmistakable. The weight of the past crashed down upon him like a wave, pulling him under into memories he thought he'd buried deep. Yes, it's me, she said, eyes glinting with something sharp yet unreadable. I've had my eye on you, and now this is our moment. But he stammered, glancing nervously at the door, the outside world still full of threats. This isn't the time for games. Why are we here? Emma raised a hand, her expression shifting from mischievous to serious. They're not just after you. They want every loose end tied. This isn't about revenge. It's about something much larger. You two don't realize what you've become a part of. His heart raced. What do you mean? The driver, momentarily forgotten, stepped forward. You think you can outrun them? You're too deep in to walk away now. The SUV, you thought you got away, but they can track you. They know. Track us? She whirled, the fear etched across her face. What are you talking about? The driver exchanged a tense look with Emma, and a sage nod passed between them. They installed a GPS in the car. It's designed to keep tabs on anyone, especially anyone connected to you. Connected how? He asked, panic creeping into his voice again. This was spiraling beyond their comprehension. Your family has a history, a legacy. One you haven't even begun to understand, Emma replied, her tone hardening. They're desperate to clean up any loose strings before the next phase of their plan. You're not just pawns, you're targets. What's the plan? He pressed, disbelief clashing with the unfolding horror. Emma stepped closer, lowering her voice. There's a corporation, a powerful one hungry for control. The people in the SUV, they're working for them. And if they catch you, they will erase you both without a second thought. A chilling silence enveloped them, each quickening heartbeat echoing off the peeling walls. He could hardly breathe. So, what do we do now? They'll be here soon, the driver interrupted, urgency slicing through the tension. We need to move again. Regroup at a transition point. There's a safe passage we can use if you trust us. He wanted to scream for clarity, to demand the truth in full, but they had no choice. With a sense of impending crisis hanging over them, he nodded reluctantly.
Okay.
What's the next step? Follow me, Emma instructed, leading them deeper into the shadows of the building. The sound of boots thumping against the ground made his skin crawl. He could feel them closing in, the terror pressing down like a heavy weight on his chest. The moment they stepped into the next room, he paused. Something didn't feel right. The flickering light revealed another door, a door that seemed out of place and dark, as if whispering secrets meant to be kept. His heart raced in a different way now, a confusing mix of dread and curiosity.
Wait,
He called, holding her back just before they reached the door. What's through there? Emma's gaze turned serious, her face taking on a shadowed intensity. That's the past you've been running from. But it could also be our only chance at survival or our doom. What do you mean? He asked, feeling the edge of a gaping pit forming in his gut. Don't go in unless you're ready to face everything. Her voice dropped to a near whisper, but the words hit harder than any physical blow.
What if I don't want to?
He countered, uncertain. Then we might not survive this night, she replied, the gravity of her statement hanging in the air, and as if the universe was responding to their choice, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. They had found them. The choice was made. Would he walk through that door, facing the unknown and whatever it held? Or would they stay, risking everything against the menacing figures in the shadows, all while the truth loomed closer than ever before? He stood frozen, teetering on the precipice of decision as the world rattled around him. Time was running out. The roar of footsteps grew louder, punctuated by frantic shouts and the clatter of equipment. He could feel panic swell within him, constricting his throat. Emma's voice was suddenly a distant echo against the chaos, the decision looming larger by the second a treacherous door pulsed with dark secrets in front of him.
Go,
she urged, fear creeping into her voice, but he hesitated. You think they've come here just for a chat? They'll tear this place apart to find us. The noise outside reached a fever pitch. He glanced toward the door, imagining the shadowy figures breaking in any second. If they didn't move, they'd be trapped like rats. But in the back of his mind, doubt twisted like a knife. What lay beyond that door? Was it his past, a truth he'd been too afraid to face, or merely another dead end? The walls seemed to close in. Memories of happier days slipped through his mind, a childhood almost idyllic, before the truth, before everything shattered. He squeezed his eyes shut, willing himself to clear the fog of confusion and fear.
Please,
Emma pleaded, her voice cutting through the turmoil. You need to decide. We can't outrun them. Either we face our demons now and find a way to fight back, or we'll become victims of their game. The driver's anxious gaze flitted between them, a posture bristling with urgency.
We need to move now.
You'll wish you hadn't waited when they breached that door. He felt a surge of resolve, mixed with dread. I can't just walk into the dark without knowing what I might find. What if it's worse than them? A moment of painful silence hung thick in the air. Then Emma stepped closer, her eyes softening, a quick flash of vulnerability. Your fear is valid. But know this. The only way forward is through what you've avoided all these years. It might hold the key to breaking this, all of it. Time's up. The driver snapped, shifting uneasily as the floor vibrated with each hurried step of their pursuers. The urgency in the room was palpable, and a cold chill trickled down his spine. With his heart pounding, he took a deep breath, focusing on Emma's eyes, which flickered with determination. Okay, I'll go through that door. Before he lost his nerve, he hurled himself toward it. With trembling hands, he grasped the handle and twisted. The door swung open with a creak, releasing a cloud of dust and a gust of stale, musty air that carried whispers of the past, the weight of memories wrapped in shadows. He stepped inside, and the darkness enveloped him. The faint flicker of a dying bulb barely illuminated the space, revealing dust-covered crates and remnants of a life long forgotten. Musty air choked him, each breath heavy with uncertainty.
Careful.
Emma hissed, following closely behind. The door slammed shut behind them, echoing ominously. Panic clawed at him again as he felt the oppressive darkness close in. Somewhere in the suffocating silence, he could hear the muffled sounds of their pursuers outside, and with every step into the gloom, he felt his resolve wavering. Suddenly, something scuttled across the floor, and a yelp escaped him. A rat, darting for cover. The sound seemed to amplify a growing dread, and he realized she was right. They had to uncover the truth to fight back. Look for anything that might help, Emma whispered urgently.
Clues, documents, something.
He nodded, focusing on the crates, prying open each one. Hours felt like minutes as he rifled through faded photographs and yellowing papers. Then one black binder caught his eye, its spine cracked but intact. As he flipped it open, a photograph slipped out, a family portrait captured decades ago. Faces he recognized instantly, yet the man in the center stood out. It was someone he thought they'd erased from memory, but as understanding washed over him, he didn't have time to digest it. From behind the door, loud thuds reverberated, jolting him awake to the present. "They're coming!" he shouted, adrenaline surging. They had to act fast, but what had he just uncovered? Heart racing, he clutched the photograph tightly. This was just the beginning. Would it connect the dots, or would it plunge them deeper into danger? As the door shook, they exchanged a look of shared determination. With every second counting down, they had to forge into the past that breathed unsettling winds through their future. But with what truth awaited them, was it truly an escape or simply a deeper descent into chaos? The door rattled, splintering the room with every ferocious hit from outside. The sounds of their pursuers were relentless, drawing closer with an electric urgency. He felt the photograph burning into his palm, the faces staring back at him like ghosts demanding acknowledgement.
Keep looking,
Emma urged, urgency lining her voice. We need something they don't want us to have. Their breath quickened, each second thudding loudly in the silence that clutched at their throats. He moved through the dark, scraping his fingers against the cold, damp wood. A low groan from the framework around them shook the walls, but he didn't stop. He could almost feel the shadows reaching for him, willing him to just give in to fear. But not now. Not when the secrets were so close. Here, Emma shouted suddenly, her eyes lighting up as she held a loose sheet of paper. It's a ledger. He rushed over and grabbed the yellowing page, his heart racing as he scanned the handwriting. The numbers and names danced around like a venomous serpent, mentioning deals, debts, ways to entrap the innocent. This is his voice trailed off as realization sank in. This is everything. They clung to the paper as a lifeline, but the door shuddered violently, the lock splintering in protest. Get ready, he shouted, adrenaline igniting every nerve in his body. We need a plan. He could hear the men outside, gruff and impatient, urgency and greed sharpening their voices. If we can get to the back of this room, there should be a way out, Emma said, fighting for control amidst the chaos. We're not trapped yet. With rapid strides, they headed toward the rear, the muffled clang of footsteps growing relentless. Just as they reached the wall, the door burst open. A silhouette loomed in the doorway, a figure even more imposing than before, eyes glinting with malicious pleasure. There you are, he sneered, stepping further in, infrared rays from a flashlight illuminating the cracks in the wall like flaws in their stalwart facade.
Run,
Emma yelled, sprinting towards a shrouded door at the far end. He followed, hope and fear conflicting in a whirlpool of emotion. The figure followed, anger ringing in his shouts. "You can't escape your fate." Adrenaline surged through him, their footsteps pounding against the floor like the urgency of an approaching storm. As he reached the door, there was a flickering of movement that caught his eye glint from deep in the shadows. He yanked it open, revealing a narrow passageway that seemed to snake beneath the building.
Go. Go.
He breathed, shoving Emily through before following suit, darkness enveloping them like a blanket. The only sound was the rush of their heartbeats, pounding against the echoes of the world they had fled. The narrow passageway was crude, bare ground beneath their feet, but they moved like shadows themselves, every sense alert and brimming with imminent dread. Just as hope flickered on the horizon, the sounds of the men echoed behind them, desperation fueling their shouts. There, through the door, one yelled, and he knew time was slipping away. As they raced down the tunnel, he fumbled in his pocket, feeling the worn photograph crumple in his grip. He had to keep it safe. It was the key to everything. Ahead, a faint stream of light beckoned like a lighthouse guiding a ship in stormy seas. Almost there, Emma called, urgency threading her voice as they reached the end of the passage. "It's there." The door swung open and spilled them out into an alley that felt both foreign and familiar, the street ahead illuminated by the waning moonlight. The storm of the night had turned chaotic, shadows of impending doom lingering, yet he felt a spark of hope this could be their chance. But just before they could orient themselves, the SUV screeched to a halt, blocking their escape. His heartbeat quickened as familiar silhouettes emerged in the harsh glow of lights, the figures that had chased them relentlessly with greed and vengeance. With trembling hands, he clutched the photograph tighter, its edges pressing into his skin.
What now? He
whispered, the words swirling in his throat. Emma looked at him, the fire in her eyes tempered with resolve. "We fight. We expose them. We have to let the world see who they really are."
No.
He took a step back, panic surfacing. "We can't. They kill to keep secrets. We can't just run forever." She grabbed his shoulders, desperation morphing into courage. With this, she gestured to the photograph. "We can prove we're not just pawns in their game. We're the wild cards." The figures moved closer, sinister, and ready to lash out. But he felt a pulse of courage igniting within him. "You're right." He took a breath. "We'll make sure this ends here." With a final surge of courage, they rushed toward the nearest car, shoved their way inside, and tuned the engine. The growls from behind echoed in the cool night air, but they wouldn't let fear overpower them no more. As he slammed down on the accelerator, the tires spun against the asphalt, and he could feel the rising exhilaration wrapping around him. They raced away from the chaos, the silhouettes shrinking in the rearview mirror. "This is the moment," he said as adrenaline surged through him. "The moment we gain control." And in that moment, everything changed. The dark secrets would see the light, and the game that bound them would finally become a battleground for their truth to be known. As the city lights dimmed in the distance, they barreled toward the future ahead, ready to reclaim what was theirs. But before they could fully let go of the past, one more hurdle awaited their hands for the final showdown, with everything at stake, waiting in the twisted remnants of the night. The moment of truth was upon them. Now, the battle wouldn't just be for their lives. It would be for all who had been silenced, and they would win. The world would know. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. And you must share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.